And we have started. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of the All Dolphins podcast. Friday, February 14th, 2025. 5 days after Super Bowl 59. Joined today by Dave Hyde from the South Florida Sun Sentinel. How are you, Dave Hyde?
I'm good. I brought my pencil, Alan, and if I can get this on, and because I know we're in the salary cap stage of the off season, so I'll be erasing numbers and all this stuff. So
very nice, well done. And I need to point out that what you're seeing in the background, if those of you watching on YouTube, is the cover of Dave's wonderful book on the 1972 Dolphins called Still Perfect, for which I had the pleasure and honor of serving as a copy editor. And it's still available. You can purchase it on Amazon. It's called simply Still Perfect. I certainly encourage you to check it out. Very good.
That was the first time that was the first time we crossed paths over an extended time. What a great editor! I actually tried. I mentioned you to the Sun Sentinel. Bring this guy in. Of course, like most things, like as the Dolphins, as Sun Sentinel, same thing. Nobody listens to me, so that's just the way it goes.
I know that, and I appreciate the very nice comment there, Dave. You mentioned salary cap, and we'll start with this. We got a couple of items to cover. We'll start with the salary cap. Dolphins have some moves to make. This is no great surprise. They are $12 million over the cap. They have to become cap compliant by the start of the league year, which is March 12th. And one player whose salary, his contract screamed he's going to get cut was running back Raheem Mostert, and his agent Brett Tessler put out on Twitter on Friday that he's been informed that the team indeed will be releasing him. Any particular thoughts on Raheem, the move, anything of that kind?
Well, we'd be remiss not to say what a great guy he was. Great guy in the locker room, great guy, great teammate. But, you know, the Dolphins save, when you break it all down, about $2.9 million. And at age, you know, his role went diminishing as the season went on last year. And when you get in your early, was he going to be 33 this year? I think he would have been.
Yeah.
And that's prime area to be cut. And you add all those factors together, and this was, you know, one of the unfortunately easy decisions for the Dolphins in a lot of ways, in that Mostert was such a good guy, but they got a lot more difficult decisions to make than him.
Yeah, you mentioned good guy. He officially was a good guy. He was the winner of the South Florida Media's Good Guy Award for the 2023 season. And there's been sort of a jinx. He actually beat the jinx, because usually the guy wins the award and is immediately gone. And we hope that's not the case for the winner of the 2024 award, because that was Calais Campbell, who joked that he's won the award several times. The other thing with Mostert that needs to be pointed out is the second the Dolphins traded a third-round pick in the 2025 draft to get a fourth-round pick in the 2024 draft to take Jalen Wright, that at that point is like, yeah, unless Raheem has another season that resembles 2023 when he set franchise records for rushing touchdowns and total touchdowns, he's going to be gone. And then the other point I want to make about this is, when you read or hear about contract extensions, they don't necessarily always are what they appear to be, because I know there was like, wow, Raheem got a contract extension last offseason. But it was, if you looked at the details of the contract, it was basically a $2 million signing bonus, some money moved up front as an attaboy for his 2023 season, but no guaranteed money in 2025, which kind of right then and there was like, yeah, the stage is set for him to get cut.
Yeah, I mean, he had to have a repeat of the 23 season in 24 not to get cut, really, and he didn't come close. And to your point on the Dolphin running back situation, with that, one of the mysteries of the season, and it's a smaller mystery considering the season, was that as the season went on, they didn't go to Jalen Wright more. They went, you know, and he was dancing a little behind the line, but you thought by what we saw in training camp and preseason didn't translate into the stages of the season where you thought he would develop more. Especially, look, running backs, they can hit the ground running if they can pass block, and
Yep.
it was surprising to me that he didn't contribute more last year, and he's going to get the chance again this year.
He better, because this is another case of, again,
Yeah.
I mean, you gave up a higher pick to get him, so you need to get some production out of the dude. And as I wrote on Miami Dolphins on the site.com, please check out the website. All content is free. Once that move becomes official with Raheem Mostert, Dolphins are going to be down to 2 running backs under contract for 2025, Achane and Wright, because Jeff Wilson Jr. is scheduled to become a UFA. So Dolphins are going to have to pick up some guys. I kind of looked at the potential options on the free agent market. And as a tease, read the story, but as a tease, not exactly flooding with options over there, or attractive options, I should say.
I mean, look, Jalen Wright's the guy they need to step forward. 225 pounds. I mean, he's a size class up from HN, and that's the guy you're banking on. I would think there'll be a lot of running. I get what you're saying. There's not a class guy out there, but there are a lot of running backs and who are guys. And the question is, right, who can they get someone to fit what they want to do? And that's what it's going to come down to for Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer this offseason, getting fits for cheap prices.
Yeah, and as we close this item here on Raheem, hat tip to him for his overall productive time with the Dolphins. Again, hat tip for being a really, really good guy. Be curious to see what happens with him as far as what kind of offers he can get. As you mentioned, he is going to be 33. The rushing average went from 4.8 in 2023 to 3.3 last year. And yes, I get it. The offensive line wasn't great, but it wasn't like the offensive line was that much different in 2024 than was in 2023. So it wasn't all offensive line related.
Yeah, but you look at all the running back totals, all of them went down. And it was kind of a mystery of what happened here. And this is one of the mysteries that Mike McDaniel has to figure out this offseason. The deep passing game, intermediate to deep passing game, was non-existent, and then the running game wasn't existent. Was it all guard play? Was it running backs too? This is high calculus for them to figure out.
Yeah. Where's my my math ruler here? I don't have it, so we'll have to move on.
All I got's the number 2 pencil. I'm a sports writer.
Okay, did you cross off Raheem off the salary cap table already? Okay, good. You talked about the offense, where the Dolphins the answer is they're going to have to try to figure out, perhaps to try to find some solutions. They hired Bobby Slowik, former Houston Texans offensive coordinator, who did a good enough job in 2023 that he became a rising star as a potential future head coach, to being fired following the 2024 season when the Texans had all sorts of issues on offense. You want to talk about the Dolphins having issues on their offensive line? I mean, I watched the Texans play several times, and holy crap, particularly the interior of that offensive line, I mean, made the Dolphins look like they had a wall of Hall of Famers. Yeah. But going back to Bobby Slowik, who, by the way, whose brother Ryan coaches on the defensive side for the Dolphins, and who was with Mike McDaniel in San Francisco, what kind of an impact can that make? Do we get to a point right now? Because hold on, as I formulate my point here, or my question, because now he's hired a senior passing game coordinator, joining Darrell Bevel, who's QB coach and regular passing game coordinator, and then you also have Mike McDaniel. So at some point, is there a concern that there's too many chefs in the kitchen?
Well, what I read into that is Pete Carroll's hired to coach the Raiders, and Darrell Bevel has history with Pete Carroll and the Dolphins. This is just me. I don't have anybody telling me this, that I would think they're expecting to lose Darrell Bevel, or because, like you said, they got all of a sudden they got a lot of people in there, and how many is too many? Yeah, when Mike McDaniel goes to Steve Ross and say we need to bring in another high salary assistant, Steve Ross, I'm sure, says, okay, but what's the plan here? And is there enough elbow room for Bevel and Slowik and McDaniel to formulate? I mean, on some level, the more the merrier. On another level, do you need all those guys? And are they stepping on each other? So my initial read was just, okay, they got to be losing somebody, and Darrell Bevel would be, as I went through the gymnastics of it all, would be the obvious guy. But we'll see if that happens. I don't know.
Yeah, and I had written that when Slowik was was fired by the Texans, that he became a logical candidate, because this was at a time when Darrell Bevel seemed to be the leading candidate to become the offensive coordinator for the Raiders under Pete Carroll. They eventually hired Chip Kelly.
Yeah.
Now, if Bevel's contract did not expire, he can't leave for a lateral move unless the Dolphins give him permission. So, as you suggested, perhaps he's indicated that if the Dolphins can swing it, he would like to be released, because I don't know how you can go lateral without going to OC from quarterbacks coach, passing game coordinator. So
yeah, the other mystery to that is Bevel and Tua seem to have a really good relationship. The way that what we see, out in the public, the way they talk about each other, the way. So I would think that'd be somebody they'd want to keep. So I'm waiting to see another shoe to drop here if another one does.
Okay, now it's time for our regular episode of As the Tyreek Turns. And this one involves the famous, infamous, however you want to describe it, race between him and Olympic champion Noah Lyles. Supposed to take place. We don't know when. We don't know exactly where, before the summer. As far as that's concerned, perfectly fine. Better not pop a hamstring. NFL standard contracts usually include clauses where players can't participate in certain potentially dangerous sport. I'm not sure that a 100-meter sprint would qualify at one of those. But I mean, that would then not be the last straw if he were to pop a hamstring, let's say like in May or June, and then, I have to miss the start of training camp because of that. And I mean,
oh God, how many things? Look, this is fun. If it was anybody, it's fun on some level. So I'm not going to. My only thought is Tyreek getting a 20-yard head start? This is an Olympic sprinter, gold medal in his prime against a guy who's going to be 31 and who doesn't sprint. I mean, he doesn't run 100 yards. So, I mean, all good and all fun. You guys go out and I hope it makes a lot of chatter for you in the off season. But from a competitive, if we're talking serious competitive, if Noah comes to run, that won't even be a race.
But also keep in mind, though, that Tyreek Hill ran track in college, so it's not like
he was the track and field high school athlete of the year, his senior year, out of Georgia. So he definitely, if he'd gone down that path. But this is a guy who, he's gone football. His body's beat up a little. He's 31. We know he's fast, but there's fast and there's Olympic sprinter fast. Okay.
You're like telling him, simmer down, Tyreek, simmer down.
Well, if he wants to have fun, I have no problem with this. Go out and have fun. But
yeah, I don't have a major issue.
Maybe make a false start where you get a 10-yard jump on no.
That's funny. I don't have or do the jet. Can he do the jet motion?
Sure. There you go. Now we're talking. He's got to put it as a clause. No one's going to come out of the starting gates. Tyreek should be able to go some lateral to get going, right? Or get a cornerback over Noah. Maybe that'd be the idea. Jam
him at the line of scrimmage. There you go. No, I don't have a major issue with it. Again, obviously, the slight possibly, however slight it is. And I know it's not going to play well with a lot of Dolphin fans who are kind of over Tyreek at this point. I would have a bigger issue with the last thing that's come out is supposedly he's on Bill Simmons podcast, and a member of his party group over there throws out something along the lines of, oh, because one of the producers or the co-host says something about how about you playing with the Cowboys next year, and then and Tyreek is like playing along, and then somebody from Tyreek's entourage throws out, keep an eye on the Chargers, and I'm like, this is after the stories come out of him, going on Radio Row, apologizing, saying he wants to play for Miami. Why would anybody in his group even put that out there, even if it's just to grab attention? Because yes, there's a lot of attention seeking from that dude, but it's like, why can it not be left alone for a bit? I mean, holy moly!
This is what you get with this is what you get. You know from the start. This is what you got. You got a guy who's late to meetings, who's caused a lot of problems behind the scenes, much less what we see out with us. So, we talk about a captain. He was made a captain with a hope. Sometimes captains are leaders and they are a rock solid guy, and sometimes you name a guy captain hoping he'll become a captain. He'll get to that level. This will help him get to that level. And that was the idea with Tyreek. Everybody knew he wasn't somebody, but this will put some responsibility and maturity into the way he carries himself around. And it didn't. I mean, he was Mike McDaniel talked about guys late to meetings. Tyreek's number one on the list. Okay. And you talk about other problems behind the scenes. So the Chargers, this is just all part of the Tyreek experience when you trade for him. Okay. And you expect him, he's 30, he's going to be 31 now in March, coming up here a couple of weeks. This is who he is. I mean, you can say, well, why didn't he change? He's 31 now. He's not going to change. So my thought would be, if you can, from the salary cap standpoint, you can't trade. I mean, it makes no sense. But if you can't figure out how to get Waddle and Tyreek into the offense to the point where they're not I think they were 30th and 44th in receiving yards this year, when they're both in the top 7 of payment. If you can't get those things working, then why not? Why wouldn't you trade them? So I just don't think you can get anything that would, because of his salary constraints, that would really help you much this year.
Yeah. My thing on this there, first of all, if you're mentioning like potential destinations, if the Dolphins indeed do trade him, and they're reporting from Tom Pelissero of NFL Network from last weekend, who's saying Dolphins are not planning on shopping him. Does Jim Harbaugh really strike anyone as a coach who would welcome that kind of package to his team? Really?
I agree with you. Everything comes with the price. What is the price? What is the risk? It's like, would you take this on? Well, would you take on a problem? Well, if I have to take it on for a 5th round draft pick, I might. Now, if you're talking, I have to pay $30 million a year and trade a number 1 draft pick, that's a whole different arrangement. So, but I agree. I just don't think it works to trade him this year, because they just gave him a $90 million over 3 years, and what they're constrained by with the salary cap, whether they keep him or they don't keep him, it's basically a $28 million hit. So, it'd have to be really something creative and magical to trade him.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, okay, anyway, but to me, it would be nice if he would develop the maturity to just, right now he had an ugly start to the off season. Let everything stay quiet for a bit. We know that's not necessarily. And then the final point on this before we move on is, if he's a captain in 2025, something's very, very wrong. I'm sorry, this is nothing. This has nothing to do with his ability as a player. He's a fabulous player. Dolphins are much better with him on the team than not on the team on the field. But he should not be a captain. And in fact, there's precedence for that. And this is my segue into the next question I have for you. Is Javon Holland was a captain in 2023, was not a captain in 2024. And I bring up Javon Holland because free agency is coming up. Javon Holland is the biggest name among Dolphin free agents. The first day for teams to use either the franchise or the transition tag is next Wednesday. The projections are for safeties, the franchise tag to be 19 and change million. And with the franchise tag, basically, teams can negotiate. If they sign him, you don't match the offer, you get 2 first-round picks. Or how about the possibility of the Dolphins using the transition tag for 15 million and change, which would give them the opportunity to match any offer but not get any compensation if they decline. Thoughts on either of those, Dave Hyde?
No, I say goodbye. I don't think he's good enough. First of all, I mean, let's start there. I haven't seen it the last 2 years. You saw at the end of his rookie year, you saw something special, and you kept waiting. You see glimmers of it his second year, and I really haven't seen it. I mean, I realized he basically won the Jacksonville game by causing the fumble at the end, but I just don't see special in his play. And you talk about being stripped of a captain. I mean, we know the problem there. At the end of the year, the Dolphins thought he was healthy to play, especially in the playoff game. He didn't think he was healthy to play. I'm not taking sides here. I'm just saying that was a head-to-head problem, and that's why everybody got contracts but him last year. And again, I just beyond how to transition contract or franchise, I just don't see an impact safety. And maybe he goes somewhere and becomes that, but I'm very fine with this is one where I say, okay, you got to let him go.
No, I agree. I mean, this is different than Minkah Fitzpatrick, who before he was traded, you could tell the dude was going to be a player. And Holland, it's been 4 years now, and as you mentioned, I hate to use that word.
You mentioned Minkah Fitzpatrick, and Next Gen Stats came out with stats. Just the best safety combination this year was Minkah Fitzpatrick and Deshaun Elliott.
Yep.
And, Minkah made no sense to me. I wrote about it repeatedly at the time. What are they doing? Deshaun Elliott is one of these guys who came in here on the cheap and had a nice year, and they let him go. And is he all pro? No, but is he a capable NFL starting safety? Yes, and that's the type of guy they're going to be looking for this offseason.
No, and another one is Brandon Jones. I mean, Brandon Jones was like a depth piece for the Dolphins, and he goes to Denver and he becomes like borderline all pro. And it's just, again, it's sometimes it just happens with circumstances. You're in the right defense, it's a perfect fit for you. Like I always thought, like Jerome Baker, to me, like Brian Flores maxed out this guy's talent like nobody's business. And he did the same to an extent with Andrew Van Ginkel. So it just happens on those. I'd be kind of inclined to agree with you. The Dolphins did not. I mean, it's the same deal as last year. They didn't use a franchise tag or transition tag on Christian Wilkins or Robert Hunt. Wound up with both of them leaving. And I kind of see the same scenario. The only problem it's going to present is the Dolphins are going to have to replace their 2 starting safeties from last year because Jordan Poyer, I would suspect, will not be back. He's a pending UFA and may continue. I don't know how many offers he's going to get around the league after the season he had, which was not a great season. And his former Buffalo Bills partner, Micah Hyde, just recently retired. And I wrote there would be something poetic if he also retired, going out at the same time.
Yeah, you look at their secondary right now. The Dolphins secondary, they need 2 safeties. I think they need another starting cornerback.
I agree.
Kendall Fuller's, 30 next year? Played 11 games this year. This is a time of, this is a dividing line where health starts to go and so and you look at Cam Smith didn't work out. Obviously, Igbenogany in the distant rearview mirror now, but those were 2 high draft pick cornerbacks who didn't work out for them. but their secondary is in major transition right now. And I'd almost say cornerback would be the number one need right now for them because, as far as impactful positions,
Yep.
we know they need two starting safeties, but I think they need a starting cornerback who can hold up his end in the NFL.
And I may throw another wrinkle at you. How long before the Dolphins move Jalen Ramsey to safety?
Well, that the way they operate, that depends on Jalen Ramsey. What does he want to do?
Oh, okay.
Right? I mean, that's the way. Which brings another thing: are we going to have the country club atmosphere around the Dolphins again this year, where everybody's happy and everybody gets to do what they want to do? I'm curious to see as we move into the next year how this works.
Tell me you agree with me on this one, or I'm crazy, which you told me before. So don't be shy about telling me again. So I wrote a column yesterday, Miami Dolphins on SI.com, because I've seen a couple of mocks that have the Dolphins taking Tyler Warren, tight end from Penn State, at number 13 overall. And I put it very, very politely, because if I were to use the exact words that I would use in speaking, to me, that would be completely crazy. And I don't care how good a tight end he is. Even if he's Brock Bowers, to me, the value at picking a tight end at number 13 on a team that has so many needs as the Dolphins do, again, in a position where they're in win now mode still, to me, it makes zero sense.
I'm inclined to agree with you. You had me right up to the point. If he's Brock Bowers, if he is so special of a player, but because look at how many times they used two tight ends. They used two tight ends a lot last year, and so you could say, okay, Durham Smythe, he's on the. Do we keep him? Do we not keep him? So my feeling on a team with no Pro Bowl players. If you have a chance to draft a guy who can give you 10 years and 5 Pro Bowls, he's got to be that guy. Though. He's got to be that guy. And you don't have an option at any of the others where you think he can be that guy, meaning a safety. I'm ruling guard out of the first round. Do not take a guard in the first round. I mean, good franchises don't do that. Okay? They don't. You look at the final 4 teams. Other than Landon Dickerson, who's a second round pick, 37th pick overall, as you said, as I written after listening to you, that the Dolphins took Javon Holland 36. Landon Dickerson 3 Pro Bowls in 4 years, pretty good pick, and that's how you get to have the best offensive line in football this year when you make picks like that. But my point would be back to the tight end. He's got to be super special, and you don't think you have the chance to be super special at cornerback or safety, something like that. So they just need. When you don't have a Pro Bowl on your team, you need help. You need talent. You need really top shelf talent. So that'd be my only asterisk to your column, and the fact that you're not crazy. Okay, I don't think you're crazy on that, but I put an asterisk on it.
Yeah, my thing. Well, here's the thing: is Brock Bowers, as great as he was, the Raiders finished 4-13. So, and I don't think the Dolphins are like, if the Dolphins get A+ contributions from Tyler Warren in 2025, are they closer? Are they closer to returning to the playoffs and maybe having a chance at winning a playoff game than if they pick a D tackle, a DB, who is an A- player right away?
If you have comparable players, I go with the cornerback or the safety or whatever. But if you say, well, the ceiling on this guy isn't near, it's a B- or something, then
trade down.
We're not okay. All right, that'd be the other option. I mean, there's a lot of options for them. My bottom line is, do not trade the first round pick to take on another high price free agent. You need some youth and talented youth on this team. And so you got to come out of this draft with some, and they haven't done it really for a while, with a few good players who can step in and help you right from the first year. This gets to me the Tavon Armstead thing, the decision there. That's a tough one, and I get if they can redo Tavon's contract down significantly, then no problem, bring him back. But what are you doing? You spent a second round pick on a tackle. You put him on scholarship the first. How many years are you going to keep him on scholarship? How many teams do that? You don't. You take the young tackle to have him take the place of the older tackle, older expensive tackle, and that's how you help your team and you help your salary cap situation. What does it say about Chris Greer if he's going to put this, Paul on scholarship for 2 years?
Yeah. No, it's almost when they took Patrick Paul in the second round, it's almost like, okay, he's going to 1 year of apprenticeship under Tavon, and then he takes over. But now you're looking at it right now, and it's still, if Tavon comes back and he gives you 14, 15 games, he's a better option than Patrick Paul. But then it goes back to your point, and why the hell did you draft Patrick Paul?
And you aren't, even if they'd gone to the playoffs this year, Tron's not in them. I mean, he's or if he's in them, he's hurt. I mean, he's toughing it out. Look, everybody loves Tavon. Everybody knows who he is. But at I didn't understand the signing him when he's hurt. I don't understand this. I mean, I get that when he's in there, he's great and healthy. He's great, but you can't count on that. And this is, maybe they get him for a good price, a fair price, and they move on, and that'd be fine. But what kind of planning is this if they just say, no, we need Tavon, we don't trust Patrick Paul? I mean, it'd be so Dolphin.
Let's wrap it up with this. What's your takeaway from the Super Bowl, particularly as it pertains to Jalen Hurts, the kind of quarterback he is, and what it means for other teams around the league who don't have a Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson type?
Yeah, if you can build a defensive line that is 6-7 players deep and can take over games, if you can build the best offensive line in the league, if you can outsmart teams like the Dolphins where they trade down to, remember they traded down to 12th, from 3 to 12th a couple years ago, got 3 first-round picks. Then they traded 2 of those picks to Philadelphia and moved up and took Jalen Waddle. Philadelphia moved from 12th to 10th with a third-round pick, and they took DeVonta Smith. The comparable careers. I mean, those are comparable. But with that extra first-round pick, they took Jordan Davis, the defensive tackle, who is a beast. I mean, he's not as good as Carter beside him, but that when you're hitting like that, that's how you become champions. You turn 1 first-round pick into 2 first-round picks and get good starters, good to Pro Bowl, edge of Pro Bowl starters with each of them, and they're not even in your top 6 or 7 players. So you can have a Jalen Hurts at quarterback. And look, I'm not diminishing Jalen Hurts when I'm saying he's not one of the top 5, 6, 7 quarterbacks in the league. But when you have that great talent around him and you have a good quarterback, a good guy who can make plays, he can use his legs, he can use his arm, use his head, you can win with that. But the hard part is building the other, 51 guys on the roster to do what Howie Roseman, their general manager, did. He's, Philadelphia won for a reason. They had the best roster in the league.
Who was your Super Bowl MVP?
Vic Fangio.
You heard it here.
He did something. He did something nobody has done to Patrick Mahomes and that Kansas City offense. And everybody said, "Well, he just rushed 4. Basic defense." you know what? Sometimes simple is the hardest thing in a game like that, to trust we can beat these guys playing this way. And, this again gets to the Dolphins. When Vic Fangio goes in there, he's got two rookies in the secondary. He's got a guy nobody could use in New Orleans. Zach Braun started 14 games in 4 years, and now he's the edge of the NFL Player of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a lot of talent to work with, but he goes in there and boom, he was a good coordinator here. He's a good coordinator. The thing the Dolphins have to solve is, why were players accepting of him there to the point he had the number one defense in the league, and why were they not accepting of him here, and what was the problem there? Because that's a championship coach, on a championship coordinator, and there's a reason 11, 12 teams copy his defense. So, but yeah, to me, he was the MVP of the game.
Okay, how about a player?
A player, the thing is, you could give it to 4 defensive players.
Sure.
And so who do you want to give it to? I'm fine with any of them. You tell me.
No, I had Josh Sweat.
Okay, yeah, I have no problem with that. You could say Carter, just because the attention he was given allowed Sweat. You could go with Cooper DeJean, right, for the pick 6 that really changed the whole scope. Yeah, at that point you said, wow, Philadelphia's going to not only win but dominate. So, I mean, I'm fine with any of that.
But this is why it annoys me, though, that because that Super Bowl MVP thing comes up in Hall of Fame conversations. Like, what do you hear is the case for Eli Manning? Well, he won 2 Super Bowls, was Super Bowl MVP twice. He was Super Bowl MVP in one game. We had no business being Super Bowl MVP, but like media members who vote with 2 minutes left in the game, who might be more concerned about writing on deadline, like the first Giants Super Bowl win against the 16-0 Patriots. I'm sorry how that did not go to one of the 4 defensive linemen. I don't care who. To me, it was Justin Tuck. You'd have gone OC Umenyiora or Michael Strahan. That'd have been fine. But that Eli Manning got it for what? One late game-winning drive when they won 17-14 and held Brady in that offense, that ridiculous offense, to 14 points. And that to me was ridiculous, which wouldn't be a big deal, except then it comes up at Hall of Fame time, and it affects not only Manning's candidacy, but if Manning goes in, that means somebody else doesn't go in. And for me,
I'm looking up because, okay, I had to think of the guy's name. The best MVP story that shouldn't have been involves the Dolphins in the 72 season. Dick Schaap. This was back. Dick Schaap was sports editor of Sport Magazine, and he had the vote. For some reason, it was
one vote.
It was one vote, and Dick, great guy. He's one of the all-timer. If you follow his career, he died several years ago. Jeremy Schaap of ESPN was his son, but he'd been out partying the night before, put his head down during the game. And as he said later, I didn't have any idea what happened in the game. I grabbed a stat sheet. I saw Jake Scott had 2 interceptions in a game that was a shutout, if not for that goofy field goal. Mm-hmm. So I figured he has to be the MVP. So I put him for the MVP. And the rest was like Manny Fernandez, Dolphins defensive tackle, who had 17 tackles that game, would tell Jake Scott, "How's my car running?" Because the MVP got a car. So as bad as whatever MVP is, that is not only a wrong pick, but a great story.
Okay, I do want to say something about that, though, and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm doing it because I'm a stickler for facts, because I'm a copy editor
What did I get wrong?
For a very long time. No, but it's not just you. And if it was just you, I wouldn't say anything. But this whole thing of Manny Fernandez at 17 tackles in the Super Bowl, there's a game book out there online. I literally went through the entire game book, every single solitary play, and charted down Manny Fernandez at 6 tackles, 4 assisted tackles, total of 10 tackles and 1 sack. So the 17 is a great story, but it's not factual. The bottom line is, and I actually I actually revisited and I don't remember where I found the game. I actually rewatched the game not too long ago, maybe several months ago. First thing, great performance by the Dolphins. Second thing, my Lord, what a horribly boring game that was. Yes. And then number three was Manny Fernandez ate the Washington offensive line for lunch. And so I have changed my thinking on this because I was like, yeah, Jake Scott wasn't a bad pick to where it should have been Manny Fernandez. But again, wasn't 17 tackles. It's 10 tackles. He still was the best player among a lot of good players for the Dolphins. As
you're getting things thrown at you.
Yes, Sarah disagrees.
Manny Fernandez in Southern Georgia is throwing things at you now.
See, there you go. Manny Fernandez saying 17 tackles, you jerk. Regardless, it was a brilliant performance. I just wanted to point that out. Why? Because I'm a copy editor. I'm a stickler for facts, which is why when people point out when I have mistakes in my copy, I want to get it right. That's what it's. I'm like looking at, sometimes I see cereal boxes and I see a typo in a cereal box and it like gets me all flustered.
I do say sometimes I get texts from you saying something was wrong, which I appreciate. I love. And you are a stickler for facts. I appreciate that about you. That's very good.
Yeah. So whenever anybody.
Poor Manning now. 40 years later, 50 years later, he loses 7 tackles.
Yeah. And I don't know where that number ever came from because I've never seen.
I don't know either.
I never seen a document other than it's become lore at 17 tackles. Anyway, Manny, it was great. You were brilliant. Sorry, didn't mean to shortchange you. Anyway, but that whole thing about the Super Bowl MVP annoys me. Not that it matters. Super Bowl 60 MVP is going to be Tyreek Hill. How's that for a prediction?
Oh, there you go.
How would that be for a redemption story? For a redemption story? That
would be a great, from a lot of angles, that would be a great crowning. Yes. I'm not sure you're saying that with conviction, though. Is he a Dolphin?
I don't see them trading.
No. As a Super Bowl MVP, is he?
In your very, very bold prediction. That's a bold. Oh, I saw one this week. In fact, I wrote about it. Kirk Cousins, Dolphins signing him.
Not sure.
Mind you, well, the biggest reason why there was 2 reasons why I say there's no chance is number one, and this is under the scenario where the Vikings release him, but they owe him all this money, so any team can sign him to the veteran minimum the way the Steelers did with Russell Wilson. So there's no cap issue for any team signing him. But the 2 issues are, I'm going to guess you would get offers where he would get a lot more realistic chance to start than in Miami. Certainly, i.e. New York Jets certainly come to mind. And then B, we really expect the Dolphins to bring that kind of a backup for Tua.
Yeah, both of those. I mean, some team's going to take him in there, and if they don't make him their starter, he'll have an equal competition at the very least with somebody. Look at a team like, the Raiders, or there's teams out there. There's a half dozen teams that need quarterbacks, and he was, as he said, he put out there, I was hurt at the end of last year. I mean, someone's going to give him a shot, and it won't be the Dolphins. It's not a fit.
No, I agree. And that's what I wrote on Miami Dolphins on SI.com, where there are tons of stories every day, free. So you can check out my work. Check out this gentleman's work, Dave Hyde, at sunsentinel.com. And again, if you have not checked out his book, Still Perfect, it's right behind him there on the wall for those listening on the audio podcast. It's available on Amazon. Dave Hyde, any parting words before we say goodbye?
I got nothing. I'm going to go right back. I'm writing a column now on the 10 steps the Dolphins should do this offseason to. It's an annual thing to rate themselves, and this is a complicated This is really a complicated off season to try to get right because there's so many things they. It's like they need 10 perfect steps.
Well, they have to go 10 for 10.
Their track record. What do you think?
No, that's not what I asked. I said, do they have to go 10 for 10?
Oh, they do. Yes, they do. I think at least 9 for 10. To really get everything. If we're talking a great season next year, sure. And look, it can be done. Look what Philadelphia did when you go through their moves this offseason, this past offseason, Howie Roseman had to be 10 for 10. So, and, it can be done.
Okay. Well, I shall be looking forward to reading it. And I encourage everyone to check out when it comes out. Again, sunsentinel.com. He is Dave Hyde. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll be back next week. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks again, Dave.